Hi, and welcome to Still Singaporean, a podcast brought to you by Singapore Global Network and the students at NUS Overseas Colleges program. I'm Cheryl, and I'm part of the Singapore Global Network based here in New York City. At SGN, we connect Singaporeans and friends of Singapore from all over the world. And this podcast is a way for us to explore what it is to be Singaporean, even when we are far away from home. In this series, you'll hear from inspiring individuals building their careers and lives abroad, how they got here, what they learned, and the little bits of Singapore that they carry along with them. Today's episode is hosted by two of the NUS students currently based here in New York City. Over to them.
Thanks so much, Cheryl, and welcome to this episode of Still Singaporean. I am Joanne, this is Jason, and with us today we have a very special guest. She is the founder of Creaturae, a trauma-informed mental wellness consultant, certified somatic coach, and also a podcast host herself. And that's when you know the podcast will be amazing. I think I can pangkang already lah.
Me too. Oh my gosh. Anyways, Deborah, it's so lovely to have you join us here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Why don't we start by, helping our listeners understand a bit more about yourself. Share an interesting fact or a hobby that people may not expect from you.
Okay, so my name is Deborah, and I'm a somatic coach, and I help people to process trauma at a level, at a nervous system level, through a body-based approach that is very gentle and it's very grounding. So I help people reconnect with themselves so that they can reconnect with others the way that they want to and move through life with meaning, purpose, and engagement. An interesting hobby that people may not expect me to have is I'm a musician too, and this year I'm actually producing my second singer-songwriter album. So
Publicize it, yes.
We have a very multifaceted guest right over here. Very talented as well, clearly. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna ask, what is this album?
Yeah, so it's called Mermaid, and it's a singer-songwriter album. It's my second one, and it's basically about renewal, it's about identity, it's about coming back to yourself. So it's very much aligned with the work that I do, and it's really tracking my life journey as well, rediscovering who I was, coming out of an abusive marriage, and rediscovering my identity, coming back to my body, experiencing my body as a safe place, reestablishing my identity, and being grounded in who I was, and getting my confidence and my intuition back. Like a mermaid. Imagine a mermaid in a boat in the middle of a vast ocean, and she's like trying so hard to stay in a boat, right? And she's scooping out water in this boat that's leaky. But that's the thing, it's the irony of it, she's a mermaid.
And she's able to embrace.
Trying so hard to stay in the boat. And then when she finally realizes that she's a mermaid,
and she's free,
she goes into the ocean and she's free.
Thrives.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the analogy for it.
That's a really, really beautiful message. And I think a lot of us can relate to that, actually. I think not just in terms of like marriages and everything, but in terms of like so many situations that we find ourselves in. It's that we try so hard to keep the status quo.
Yes.
But sometimes I think it's really important to open up your mind to a new possibility.
Yes.
And I'm really, really happy to hear that, this is what your new project is about and
stuff. Exactly. And that's what I do in my work, to help people get out of those situations, those limiting beliefs that keep them small and stuck. Yeah.
I think that's a really important message, because a lot of us at home, I think, may not have the experience of going through therapy. I myself had a very, really good therapist, and it was because of her that I was able to unlearn so many of these preconceived notions and constructs that we have learned throughout our lives, and understand that, at the end of the day, it's really you that's in charge, and you decide what's best for you, and keep an open mind.
Yeah, you're the orchestrator of your own life.
Yeah,
and you set the tone.
Yeah, and this is coming from because my parents are like in their 70s this year, so obviously a lot of them are more traditional, more conventional, and a lot of these beliefs were based on what they learned in the past. But now it's 2025, and there's so many things happening in the world. The world is very, very different, and I think what's important is for us to adapt and to keep an open mind. So
yes. Yeah, do your parents know about AI bots?
They think they know. They're like, you should use ChatGPT. I'm like, I've been using it since a year ago, babes.
Oh wow! Well, your parents are staying current. That's great.
Skills future. There we go.
I mean, I wish I could say I had a good experience with a therapist, but so far, no. You've
Oh
been
dear, I'm
recommending
sorry to
one.
hear that. So I would recommend a trauma-informed therapist because that makes all of the difference. And that's why I do what I do, because I know what that's like to go through a therapist, to share with them some of the difficult things you've been through and to feel completely unsupported and oftentimes even re-traumatized by some of the actions, like where you feel like they're just looking at you like you're a specimen as opposed to an actual person. So I've been there. And so the work that I do is very much like relational. There's a lot of collaboration. You co-create a space. You are supported very gently through whatever it is that you need to unpack in
I
that
can tell
space.
from the way that you speak, it's so comforting.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
really
you.
nice to listen, actually. I hope the listeners agree as well.
Yeah, and I guess on Jason's point, since we were talking about status quos and like what is traditional, so I think we come from like an Asian culture, and we can tend to be a bit more practical in that sense. So society might not be that supportive of, let's say, studying psychology, but from what we understand, you studied psychology in Columbia.
Yeah, I am actually still pursuing a master's in clinical psychology at Columbia, and it was a natural progression for me because I'm certified in post-traumatic stress studies. So I studied with the Trauma Research Foundation in Brookline. With Bessel van der Kolk, who wrote the book The Body Keeps the Score. It's a New York Times bestseller, and that book changed my life and set me on this trajectory, which made me start my company as well, because I understood like so much of mental wellness is really about healing the mind-body connection and being present with what you're experiencing in your body rather than just shutting it down, which from a young age many of us are taught to do. Yeah.
Yes.
Like, don't be sad, like stop crying.
Yeah.
You know, these are very normal things to hear in a especially Chinese household, right? Like, don't cry.
Yeah,
Be
why are you
cool.
crying?
You
Yeah.
know, that kind of thing where you, literally as a kid you just download that, and there's a lot of shame around
In expressing
feelings,
these emotions and everything?
of around sadness, around crying. Like it seems that it's wrong to cry, but actually crying is very regulating. It helps you to regulate your nervous system. Yeah.
In that case, I guess because you mentioned about parents, family, were they supportive, or how do you navigate that?
So with my parents have actually passed on. Like both my parents have passed on.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Really
but my
sorry.
parents would have been supportive. My parents were always like, only with music. My parents were not. My dad, especially, he didn't really want me to like live the
Pursue.
musician life. It was more out of concern. But I think my parents are very different from most Asian parents in the sense that they were always like, just do what you like, you know, go read this or whatever. Like I grew up in a more like English educated home, and like I had troves of books at home. And
Wow.
so yeah, like my parents always were very open about anything. They didn't have those similar kind of expectations and pressures that I think a lot of other Singaporeans face, which is probably why I'm like who I am today, you know.
Someone
as
super
well.
cool.
Yeah, that is so
I have
true.
my parents to thank for my
That's
coolness.
the end product, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But what would you say are some unique strengths or challenges that you've observed, you know, among Singaporeans when it comes to things like emotional resilience, self-regulation, or even like community care?
Yeah. I feel like so that's coming to, you know, I've lived in America for a number of years. I lived in LA, and then now I live in New York City, but you know, I was in Singapore, you know, for the past 6 years since May last year. And I noticed one thing about Singaporeans is that they're very adaptable. So they will always adapt and accommodate in any situation, like flowing like water almost, to accommodate, to understand, to observe, and to like notice and like pay attention and like understand what other people want and need. But I also want to challenge that in a sense that sometimes it's not just about accommodating other people, but it's also understanding who you are, what your own needs are, and being attuned to that. Attuned to yourself, and then also being able to articulate that and speak up. Because sometimes if you don't do that over time, it can actually cause relational problems. Because what happens, especially in intimate relationships, is that people tend to like just try to accommodate, and then resentment can build up over time. And that can also cause a breakdown in communication, a breakdown in relationships. So I think that there are good and bad parts to some of these cultural nuances.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot to commend about it, because there's a very strong emphasis on harmony, which is something that I think humans naturally want and naturally move towards as part of our evolution.
Definitely. I think that's a great point that you brought up over there, because I was actually just reflecting on my internship journey in New York City. And I mean, I've been here for almost a year. And I think I was telling Joanne about this yesterday, is that at the very beginning, when you first come into an unfamiliar environment, and this is just speaking for myself, maybe not every Singaporean is like this, but I really felt like I had to somehow blend in. So even in like my workplace and everything, if someone, had an unreasonable request, I would be like, oh yes, sure, of course, and I'll go above and beyond just so tick those boxes, make someone feel really good about it. But of course with that, it leads to like burnout and stuff, right? And that was when I really realized that I needed to sit myself down and ask myself, what is your intention of doing this? Why are you even here in the first place? What do you want to achieve? And that led me to actually come up with like 10 goals that I have set for myself that I want to achieve before I leave New York City. And I think with these, in a sense, like guiding principles, it really helped me in terms of like stabilizing my emotions, because whenever I wanted to do something, I would ask myself, oh, does this fulfill any of these 10 goals? Am I taking a step towards fulfilling any of these 10 goals? And then from there, it really gave me like
you a lot of clarity,
a lot
of focus, a lot of direction and intention. I love that you sat with yourself. You took the time to sit with yourself and intentionally ask yourself, why am I here? What am I trying to get out of this experience? And then you came up with 10 goals, very Singaporean of you. Very goal directed. That's the still Singaporean in you.
There we go. Right above my head. No, I agree. Oh my gosh. But yes, I think this act of like sitting yourself down was something that I really learned through therapy, actually.
Exactly, right? Because we're so outwardly directed. And not just Singaporeans. I mean, all the work that I do, even with people who are not Singaporean, a lot of us get our identity from externals, as opposed to listening to our intuition, listening to what our body is telling us. Like sometimes when I feel dysregulated, I have to actually like slow down and ask myself, like, why am I feeling this way? And then when I actually allow myself to slow down, like stop being on my phone, stop trying to get things done, like just actually slow down, then I'll come to the deeper questions around like, what is it that's making me feel this way? And then I can get my focus, because usually when you feel that, there's something pulling you in a certain direction where you have overlooked or you're avoiding. So as a trauma coach, I focus a lot on what are triggers, what are trauma responses. So when you get triggered, you fall into some reflexes that you learned when you were a kid of coping, right? Because as a child, you don't have a lot of power. And you depend on other people. Your parents, for example, socialized you, right? So you do what makes them happy. It's unconscious. And so one of your reflexes that you're talking about, where you would accommodate unreasonable requests, that's a fawn response, where you're actually engaging in behavior that pleases other people, but sometimes you abandon yourself in that process. So a lot of us have learned that even as children, especially in a society like Singapore, where obedience and compliance is huge. It's key. But obedience and compliance doesn't make for good relationships in the long term. It doesn't make for authentic showing up and presence in relationships. So being able to unlearn some of these things and learning how to negotiate and articulate like what's important to you and come back to yourself is the work that you did with your therapist, and it's the work that I do as well with my clients.
I feel like you just got 2 new clients here. I need to see you after this. We were also talking about how we feel like after we came to the US, it's very hard to slow ourselves down, and that's why for myself I also have 10 goals.
Wow! Did you guys coordinate?
No. But I guess on that topic also, we wanted to talk about kiasu.
Yes.
Like that Singaporean term. I think it's very Singaporean of both of us. I would say personally, I'm very kiasu too. So how do you reframe that mindset? Like,
how do you reframe kiasu? So kiasu is afraid of losing, and basically it's a fear-based mindset. So, this is not uniquely Singaporean. It is uniquely Singaporean in the sense that you're like so kiasu that you would put the tissue paper on the table
just in case you lose
the table. That is distinctly its own little like category of kiasuism. But like it's not unique. Like a lot of people are in that survival mindset because kiasuism came from being an immigrant trying to make it in Singapore. So it's based off of that survival mindset. And it's very deeply rooted in all of us, like all of us, especially, you guys came here in New York and you're just trying to kind of adapt. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of cognitive load.
Yes.
When you shift countries, you're shifting the way that you speak, you're shifting the way that you relate, you're navigating like a completely different geography, a different
so
culture.
many parameters. I agree.
It puts a very huge cognitive load on your brain. So your body is also adapting to it. So it is actually very understandable that you might feel a little bit discombobulated, a bit disconnected with yourself, and sometimes feel overwhelmed as well. But to your question about reframing this, how do you get past this idea of like kiasu and like, I guess in order to answer this question, I want to pose another question back to you. Like, how do you feel like it holds you back? In what way? Like, which specific scenarios can you think of?
I guess I was thinking in terms of, let's say, I'm kiasu and also a bit of a perfectionist. It can sometimes be so overwhelming that you end up just procrastinating or convincing yourself that I kind of need a break instead of actually taking concrete steps towards things.
So this is all fear-based, right? So it's like, it's what you describe is avoidance. It's also functional freeze. You're in a state of functional freeze. I was just writing some collateral on this earlier before coming here, and a lot of us are in that space, and I want to also kind of challenge you in this space to maybe change the way you see that, because actually a lot of the things that we do is unconscious, right? There's an unconscious flow to the things that we do. But instead of judging yourself in those moments where you're procrastinating, why not just tell yourself, hey, I'm gonna get to it, and I will when the time is right. Flow with it. This is the work that I do. I help people to get unstuck and flow with life. Maybe it's not going to go the way that you plan, not like, cookie cutter order, but you will get to it. And when you're able to have that confidence in your heart to know, hey, I'm putting this off, I'm going to get it done. And sometimes there's also in your brain what you call the action potential. So sometimes your brain is like building up the action potential for the neurons to connect, for all the chemical processes to happen, so that you get enough momentum, so to speak, to get the thing done. So sometimes like I want to sort of challenge you to be gentle with yourself in those moments instead of judging yourself.
This specific conversation, I think, reminds me of one lesson that I learned from my therapist, which is that I remember this was like in JC, and I was really, really stressed out because of like prelims, and I wasn't doing well at all. And JC, we take so many subjects, right? Whenever I went into like a session with her, I would always be like, oh, I'm not good with math, I'm not good with science or bio, whatever. And then she taught me one magic word. She said, yes, you're missing one important word at the end of your statement. The word is yet. I'm not good with math for now. I'm not practicing enough yet.
Yes.
And that word really helped me in terms of like understanding that, hey, it's not the end of the world.
Yes.
Because when you make a statement like, I'm not good with math, it's a conclusion.
Yeah, it sounds really decisive.
You're sealing your fate, essentially.
Yeah.
But when you said, I'm not good, or I can be good with this, or like, and adding the word yet behind it, it really empowers you to, and gives yourself a second lease of life. It's giving yourself a second opportunity to be like, hey, there is a future, there is a potential at the end of the runway.
Yes, and it's a switch from a fixed to a growth mindset.
Yeah.
And to your point, it's also a shift from a fear-based to an abundance mindset. So the idea is that you step into these roles. You don't learn it overnight. Like even me, I'm doing clinical psychology. I had to do statistics again, and it wasn't fun. I have to
traumatizing,
right? Yeah. But these are things that you can grow in. And if I were to just go and like, I hate statistics, I'm not gonna try. No, then it's just gonna be a pain every time. But like if I allow myself to get curious about the feelings, curious about why you're procrastinating, for example, curious about some of these things that come up that maybe you might feel as inconvenient, you might feel as not as efficient. I think as Singaporeans, we're always taught from a young age to really prioritize efficiency.
Yeah.
But a lot of life doesn't really unfold that way. And sometimes you miss the more beautiful things when you're so laser focused on just getting the task done.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. And fun fact, because of this practice that I've started doing and becoming more forgiving and more comfortable with my strengths and my weaknesses, I was actually able to excel because of that. Because I think I remember like JC just 2 years, right? In the first year, I was just so bogged down with my own emotions, anxiety attacks, depression. It was really, really very, very dark. And because of that, it was reflected in my grades because I just spent so much time, just not being able to perform per se.
And then beating yourself up for that.
Beating yourself up and just being so hard on yourself. However, in my second year, when I opened up my mind and became more open to, being just more forgiving, taking the step to really understand who you are as a person, I was actually able to pace myself out.
Yeah.
And that really, really helped a lot, to the point whereby, like, even though, the finals, like I did the IB program and the IB exams were coming right up like next week, I was able to pace myself and give myself time to, relax and talk to myself. And I did.
And that's
well.
it, is you were talking to yourself, you're treating yourself like a friend. And
Yes.
that's essentially the work in any kind of therapy, coaching. You're changing your relationship with yourself, treating yourself like a friend that you want to help. Jordan Peterson talks about that. How would you treat yourself? Treat yourself like a friend that you want to help. But many of us have have internalized a lot of these parental judgy voices that basically beat us up when we're down. And that's the last thing you need. You would never stick around with a friend that kicked you when you were down. So why would you do that to yourself?
That's really, really, really valid, actually. So I guess since we're also on this conversation and, now it's like SG60 and everyone is also like looking forward, what would you say are some things that you would like to see for Singapore in the mental well-being space in the, following years to come?
Yeah. So, I created my company, Creaturae. It's creatures in Latin. That's what it stands for. And it's basically the idea that we are not just brains, or like heads on sticks. We are actually embodied beings. And like there's a whole idea of just being able to exist without actually having to be productive, right? That's that animals never question their existence. They don't feel like they are worthless if they're not like, hunting or, producing or whatever. Like they don't question their existence. And so that's why my company is created, and it was called Creaturae based off that concept. And then the other piece to it is that it's a trauma-informed consultancy. So when I, left that abusive marriage and I was, I had PTSD, I was going through all the institutions. I went to the hospital, I went to the police, I went through the court system, I went to church. And I found myself in all of these institutions where I had expected support to be re-traumatized instead. People would be like, this police report is just a piece of paper. I can't do anything for you. And it's like, I was actually getting wrong information because I could have actually gone to the court and taken him, to justice, right? But that was not information that was made known to me, and I was given wrong information by the policeman. Oh, wow. And so trauma-informed processes, like even what you're talking about with counseling, where your experiences haven't been the best, like these are things I feel that are very integral to mental wellness. Because when you are around people who dismiss you, who invalidate like your experience or like distance themselves from you even when you're in a very difficult space, it can be very isolating and it can be very lonely. And I know that this is the experience of many Singaporeans. I'm not the only person that has come out of an abusive marriage. I'm not the only person who has gone through it. And so many other people, their voices are silenced because they don't get the support that they need. And many people also struggle with mental health issues like grief, for example. That's another issue that in Singapore I see people don't talk about the loss of someone they love. There doesn't seem to be a lot of room for that. Or like the struggles that they have, with their families or the relationships that come up. And there seems to be a lot of stigma around like even talking about like divorce or like some of these very common problems.
Yeah.
It's very common, like, 50% of marriages end in divorce. So why is it something that we're not talking about?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stigma around all of these issues, and I would wish for Singaporeans to have more freedom to talk about it and to really show up with their whole selves rather than feeling the need to put up this veneer of like perfection or like of propriety and respectability. Because that's what makes life beautiful, is when we can actually show up as who we really are rather than masking and kind of hiding parts of ourselves we feel that are less acceptable. But what creates connection is the human side of us, which is not always, burnished and polished. It's that connection that we crave as human beings, to know that, hey, we're not alone in our struggles. And this is actually more common than we think.
I think this is actually a really, really important point that we have over here, because I think growing up, especially with parents wanting us to be ambitious and to be leaders, for example, we tend to have this perception that leaders need to be perfect,
Yeah.
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's really, really toxic in my opinion,
Yes.
because you're always expected to put up like a facade, when in
Yes.
reality you're a human being yourself.
Yes.
Nothing is perfect. You would have your own struggles. And what really allowed me to, what made me realize that, hey, not everyone is perfect. One role model that I actually have a lot, that I always look up to, is actually Michelle Obama herself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when she came to Singapore and she did like a speech, a talk, I was lucky enough to attend one of those talks. And in those sit-down interviews, she talked a lot about actually how she and President Barack Obama went for marriage counseling.
Oh, wow, she did.
Yes, they went for marriage
Wow,
counseling,
that's amazing.
how she struggled with miscarriage herself.
Wow.
So, and how those really affected her relationship, especially, yes, she was the first lady of the United States and everything, and people always look up to the first lady, right?
Yeah.
But she's trying to show a more human side
Yeah,
to it.
the
that,
more
hey,
vulnerable
the more
side.
vulnerable side, and because of that, she garnered even more support. People can relate to her, and that's actually what her entire book, Becoming, is about.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah,
I have
so
to read that book.
That was really,
Yeah.
really, when you mentioned that, I instantly connected with that. And I
Yeah.
think as leaders, as people, it's important to be able to relate and to connect. And I think one way that we should do it is by also being more vulnerable.
Yes,
like opening
yeah.
up
Yeah,
ourselves.
I was gonna say I've known Jason for a while, but I haven't heard of many of these stories.
Yeah, like, so this
Only
is a space that
today.
opened up, right? Like,
Thank
and
you for
yeah.
the podcast.
Yeah,
Please.
thank you, Still Singaporean.
And I guess for Deborah, do you have any plans to bring some of your practices here back to Singapore? Or-
Yes, yeah, I
think we
would
need
love
it.
to.
It's super
Yeah, like I
meaningful.
think so my embodied leadership workshops I actually also catered towards mental health providers. So people who actually spend a lot of time caring for other people, supporting them, they experience vicarious trauma as well. So this would help them to sort of process some of that trauma that they carry, and then sort of also in some ways change their relationship with themselves, because they can be really hard on themselves. Like they're so busy caring for themselves, and then actually a lot of things are not within their control. So but then sometimes when things go awry, then they blame themselves. It's very easy when you are always focused on caring for other people. So kind of creating that space for them to care for themselves as well. And then also I hope to work with people in the legal, tech and finance sectors, because these are really, really high pressure roles.
Environments,
Yeah, and so there's a lot of toxicity there. I mean, there's no, we're not, going to beat around the bush with that, because it's true. And giving them the tools to come back to themselves, to reconnect with themselves, to reprioritize and feel that, sort of clarity around what they're doing, I think it will change the cultures, change the whole culture institutionally.
I
Wow.
guess since you have been in the US for a while now,
Yeah.
just a quick question: what is something that you miss the most about Singapore?
There's so many things that I actually miss. I'm really looking forward to going back next week to
Oh,
Singapore.
next week.
I'm going to be back for about 2 weeks, and
I'm heading back next week as well.
Oh, okay, well, wonderful.
We'll meet again in
Yeah.
Singapore.
Yeah.
She
So
has 6 more months left.
all three of us, but I'm really looking forward to the food.
Oh.
Yeah, the oysters here are actually quite small. Like the oysters, there's this place called Oyster Bank in Singapore. The oysters are from Japan, and they're 3 times as big as the oysters here. And then of course there's the hawker food that I miss.
Of course.
And then I really love Botanic Gardens. It's
Yes.
one of my favorite places to go to in Singapore, and so I miss Botanic Gardens.
One of the biggest lessons that I learned through therapy is the importance of self-care. So whenever I go on my self-care walks/hikes, I'm at the Botanic Gardens.
Yeah.
So if you see me there every Sunday in the morning, it's because that's my
Yes,
time to recharge
yeah.
and
Find you
reconnect.
there.
Yes, there's something very healing about being in nature,
Yes.
and they did such a great job. I grew up, going to botanics, and it's shifted over the years, but it's so beautiful, and it's very, very rejuvenating and healing. So I love going there.
Actually, I feel like when I came to the US, I was so keen to explore everywhere here.
Yeah.
But then I thought back, why didn't I go around exploring Singapore?
Yeah.
Even botanics.
Yeah,
true.
because you thought you would always have it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's always there. Whatever, it's okay.
Or that Singapore is so small, it's nothing
Yeah.
left to explore.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I guess since we're on a topic of home and everything, let's do a quick fire round that we have over here. And okay, so it's just gonna be a quick I'm gonna ask you a lot of questions about Singapore.
yeah.
You guys gotta be
quick fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, what is your favorite Cai Fan order?
Oh wow, yeah, I like the taugeh,
Okay.
and then the curry chicken, and then the steamed egg with the
Yes.
yeah,
The
what's
runny
that?
egg,
The steamed egg with
And the mincemeat on top.
the mincemeat, and then the vegetable, the preserved vegetable. Yeah, that's nice. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with a lot of the gravy, the curry.
Yeah. The
that's
zap is
nice.
very
Yeah,
important.
The zap is very
The
important.
zap is
yeah.
super important.
Yeah, it's damn
We're
good.
hungry.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting you guys hungry, huh? Yeah.
It's okay. Next week, guys. Next week. I just need to wait a little longer. Oh my gosh. Okay, your go-to Singlish phrase.
卖出了.
Oh. Wow.
Like, get it done. Like, don't waste
Oh
time.
my gosh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
卖出了.
yeah, 卖出了. It's a bit of a slangy thing, but yeah.
Oh my gosh. You want to ask the next few?
Okay. What is your favorite public holiday in Singapore?
My favorite public holiday, I have to say, is interestingly Chinese New Year. I used to hate Chinese New Year because I hated small talk. I always felt like, why am I here? Like, I don't even see these people. Like, why am I here?
Once a year we meet.
like I was like, why are we doing this? It's such a waste of time. Then as I grew older and I started to value like my like relatives and those relationships more like as an adult, and realizing how short life can be, and
Yeah.
like how how you don't always have people around you. They won't be around forever. And then I started to value it more, and I look forward to it now. And I actually enjoy the getting together, connecting, just learning about each other's lives, the stories, because you don't always get to unpack these things, and the food, the festivities, just the vibe around it. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah.
It's definitely something that I took for granted-ish
Yeah.
until I had to spend New Year here myself.
Oh,
Chinese New
yeah.
Year is so different.
Yeah,
without relatives.
It takes sort of experiencing the negative to really kind of embrace
Yeah.
all the good things
It's
about
true.
it, right? Yeah.
Okay, so the next question. What is one thing that you always do when you go back to Singapore?
One thing I always do is definitely meet up with some of my loved ones there. For example, my godma is she's known me since I was a kid, so I'll definitely get in touch with her, and some of my friends there, and definitely those are the go-to things, like connecting with people that I love and care about. Yeah.
Wow.
Next week?
Yeah, next week, exactly, yeah.
Last one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about Singapore?
I love, and I do this in a way that's kind of like a little bit bratty sometimes, but I always talk about Singapore like, oh yeah, Singapore went from a third world to a first world country in 60 years, and we don't waste time for doing anything. Like, I get very up in my head about it, and I talk about Lee Kuan Yew sometimes about I'm like, oh, and he did this when Malaysia tried to take a water away, and he created Jamba juice, Jambang juice. Which is new water.
Exactly. Oh my god.
People like you can see their faces
Yeah, they're
turn. They're like what's new water
Are you
again?
serious? They're like,
but
"Wait,
they're like,
what?"
what were we talking about?
I love doing that when they buy a bottle of new water. I'm like, do you know what you're actually drinking? They're like, huh? They're like, what?
Yeah, so
my gosh.
there's a badass side about Singapore that I like to flex it a little bit sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Definitely the Singapore pride.
Yeah.
And finally, because it's SG60 this year, do you have a message they want to share with Singaporeans, whether they're at home or overseas?
Yeah, so whether or not you're at home or overseas, I would encourage you to just really deeply embrace every aspect of what it means to be Singaporean, especially, if you've lived abroad or you've done things that maybe most Singaporeans haven't done. That doesn't mean you're any less Singaporean.
Fair.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful message. A really, really beautiful message, but an important one for sure.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I guess that brings us to the end of this episode of Still Singaporean.
Yeah, and thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate this time that
Thank
we
you
had
for joining us,
together,
Deborah.
and your
Thank you.
openness as well.
Of course. This was an important conversation that we really needed to have, and we hope it inspires you at home to, also have these conversations with your friends. There's no need for it to be a podcast, of course, but I think it's important for you to sit down, be intentional, and talk to yourself even. So yeah, thank you so much.
For more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.